Hello, I'm forecaster Blake Courtesy. At the moment, we have pretty decent conditions out there at the moment. 51 degrees for our temperature right now. We do have a little bit of blustery conditions. That's going to send our wind chills down into the 40s as we go into the overnight hours tonight, and those winds will be out of the southwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. I would take a look around the region. We have pretty similar conditions for most of the area. 54 degrees at one spot down there in Nynton, 50 degrees up there in Cambridge, and all of us going to be having those building clouds as we go into the overnight hours tonight, and that is due because of this patchy area of rain that's going to be moving through the area that's forming in front of a cold front. That'll be pushing its way into the Ohio area overnight hours tonight and into tomorrow morning. So by the time you're waking up tomorrow, this is around 8 a.m., we have this little more intense rain showers coming through the area. They'll be passing through after about midday tomorrow, mainly around 5 p.m. when you can expect those showers to be out of the area. So go into the bus stop tomorrow morning, take the umbrella. By the evening, you should be able to put it back away.
In tonight's special edition of Newswatch, we'll take a look at all of the races you'll see on the ballot in Athens County.
Plus, there are more socialist candidates on the ballot than ever before. Hear what makes them different.
And petitioners on both sides of a controversial House bill are leaving voters confused about what they're signing. Newswatch starts right now.
Hello, and thank you for joining us for this special election episode of Newswatch. I'm Ben Schwartz.
And I'm Anna Azalian. Tonight we'll be focusing on some of the local races here in Athens and other ballot issues voters will see around the region tomorrow. When voters in Athens fill out their ballot tomorrow, there will be 2 names to choose from for mayor. This was not the case 4 years ago when the current mayor, Steve Patterson, ran unopposed. This year, Damon Crane is the challenger. I talked to both of them about the issues most important for their campaigns. Damon Crane says there's one issue at the center of his campaign: housing.
I've made Operation Slumlord Smackdown the centerpiece of my campaign because I really can't think of a single issue that is more impactful for a larger number of people. 80% of our population lives in rental housing. So we're talking about the daily comfort, safety, privacy of the vast majority of Athenians.
Crane says that statistic is a rough estimate. A 2016 study from the Athens County Foundation says 72% of housing in the city of Athens is rental housing. Crane says he brings that up to 80% because many of those houses have more than one bedroom. He also says rental housing is an issue that touches on everything from the city's carbon footprint to affordability for those looking to buy a home. For Steve Patterson, however, there's not one issue he views as most important. He says he's focusing on a little bit of everything, but from talking to Athens residents, some of the important issues include housing, street repairs, and local businesses. On rental housing, he says this.
I think that landlords are going to have to step up their game and either invest more money and make their units more attractive, safer. They're just going to look better as opposed to not looking great and not being well maintained. Just to stay, if they want to stay in the rental business, they're going to have to change the way they do business. So that's going to, I think, level some things out as well.
Patterson says this is in part because of the decline in enrollment at Ohio University, something he says he doesn't see plateauing anytime soon. He says there are other things that could be done and other things that have been done. Patterson pointed to a recent city council measure which changes the penalties landlords face for housing law violations. Both candidates say there is more that can be done and more that should be done for rental housing and affordable housing in Athens.
And while Mayor Patterson is facing his first ever challenger, 3 first-time candidates are looking to win at-large seats on Athens City Council. Beth Clodfelter, a Democrat, along with independents Ellie Hamrick and Chris Monday, are each hoping to win one of 3 seats, currently held by incumbents Sarah Grace, Patrick McGee, and Peter Katzis. I spoke with the candidates to get their thoughts going into the election. Peter Katzis and Patrick McGee have held at-large city council seats for the past 2 terms. They both cite their professions outside of local government as a reason they fit in well.
The business owner, I think, is key because nobody else on council has ever had employees or looked at a profit and loss statement from a business aspect. So I think it's, when we get into those conversations, I think it's important to have that voice there.
Well, I notice that I'm the one that's able to ask the questions, and I find that as my experience as a lawyer, I can basically see when somebody is stonewalling me. That's an important thing because a lot of people come up here and advocate issues that never actually tell you what it's going to cost or who's going to pay for it or what the benefit is going to be and who's going to benefit from it. So, I mean, those are the questions you have to ask, and you have to dig.
And along with Katzis and McGee, Sarah Grace is finishing up her first term as an at-large council member. Grace says her biggest strength on council is her ability to think in the long term.
One of the important things I bring to council and that I've tried to really pay attention to is carefully thinking about the long-term impact of anything that's brought before us. So, and that's thinking about unintended consequences, thinking about long-term health, sustainability, and making sure I keep in mind the different and varied populations.
And attempting to win a seat for themselves, however, are a number of first-time candidates. Ellie Hamrick is a self-proclaimed revolutionary socialist and says she's running in support of the working class.
Well, I first decided to run because I am angry that Democrats have been in office here in Athens with virtually no opposition for decades. Literally the entire lifespan of most college students. The Democrats have held power here in Athens with no more than one non-Democrat in office at any time. So they can't go to the Democrats like usual excuse of, oh, we would love to do all these great things, but the Republicans are stopping us. There's no Republicans to stop them here, and they've still chosen not to support advancement for the working class.
And first-time candidate Beth Clodfelter says her main focus would be to help women at OU and the surrounding area.
Over 30 women told me that they would like it if the city of Athens would improve lighting in areas of town that are not very well lit. So I immediately said, okay, I think I'm going to run to make that happen, and that is now one of my platform planks, is getting better lighting in dark places in the city to keep all of our citizens safer, especially the female college students.
Chris Monday, the remaining at-large candidate, was unable to meet with us before tonight's show. City Council at-large seats allow voters from the whole city of Athens to vote for their preferred candidates, as opposed to candidates running for each of the 4 wards. We'll have more news tomorrow as the election results come in.
And 2 independent socialists will be on the ballot in Athens. Newswatch reporter Taylor Bruck joins me now. Taylor, who are these candidates?
Anna, one is Damon Crane. He's running for mayor as an independent Democratic Socialist. The other is Ellie Hamrick, who is running for an at-large city council seat as an independent Revolutionary Socialist. The 2 say the titles will make their time in office, if elected, different than other politicians.
Damon Crane says running for mayor as an independent Democratic Socialist means his values align with Athens' values.
Being a Democratic Socialist means that my values are aligned with the values of most Athenians.
In the 2016 Democratic primary race, according to CNN, more than 60% of voters in Athens County voted for Bernie Sanders, another Democratic Socialist.
So as a Democratic Socialist, I'm interested in democracy, a much more democratic situation than what we've got now, and also prioritizing the needs of people who are struggling the most.
Ellie Hamrick is running for an at-large seat on City Council, and she echoed Crane's thoughts on aligning with the values of the working class people of Athens. She said she would work to make things that matter to the working class her priority.
I think for me, I recognize that change does not come from the top down, that it comes from the bottom up. So my goals in office are not to make decisions on behalf of people, but rather to involve the mass of ordinary working class people like myself in building power for ourselves, in building class consciousness and organization and solidarity.
In previous years, city officials have been Democrats. This will be the first time a socialist is in a seat of power if Crane or Hamrick are elected.
Both candidates' platforms revolve around issues they say will help the working class in Athens. Crane says he wants to get Ohio University students more involved in politics. Hamrick says if elected, she will be the first openly queer female on city council to her knowledge. Some of the issues both candidates have on their platform include rental housing and prioritizing care over criminalization.
Thanks, Taylor. And all of these candidates we talked to had much more to say, but we couldn't fit it all on TV tonight. To read about each candidate's stances on a variety of issues, go to WOUB.org. And tomorrow, as the votes roll in, we'll be covering the races live on our Facebook page, as well as Twitter and Instagram throughout the night. An Ohio House bill would subsidize 2 coal plants in the region. Why it's been controversial so far. And petitioners on both sides of the bill are leaving voters confused. That story when Newswatch returns. Ohioans will have a chance to decide whether a new tax would fund subsidies of 2 coal-burning power plants. One of the plants is in Ohio and the other one is in Indiana. The bill was technically signed into law by Ohio Governor Mike DeWine, but it has to appear on the ballot because the Constitution requires voters to have a chance to say yes or no to tax legislation. Ben Schwartz talked to Thomas Suddes. Suddes, who writes about Ohio politics for the Cleveland Plain Dealer, explained exactly what House Bill 6 is and why it's so controversial.
House Bill 6 is an attempt to give Ohio's 2 nuclear-powered electricity generating plants on Lake Erie, one in Oak Harbor, one east of Cleveland, a second wind, so to speak. They are not competitive right now in today's electrical markets, and so the state legislation called House Bill 6, which was enacted this summer and Governor DeWine signed it immediately, would have ratepayers subsidize the operational costs of the 2 nuclear plants to help them be competitive with natural gas plants and so forth around the country. Secondly, the bill also, and this may be of interest to people in this part of the state, the bill also subsidized 2 coal-fired power plants, one of them in Gallia County at Cheshire, called the Kyger Creek plant, and the other one in Indiana, owned by Ohio Valley Electric Corporation, which is a cooperative venture of a number of Ohio electric companies. The mathematics are somewhat complicated. I won't attempt to walk through all the numbers, but in brief, what happens is that Ohio electricity customers for stockholder-owned companies will pay an additional fee on their electric bills every month to help make these subsidies possible.
Does it still have to go on an election ballot for the public to vote on?
Well, that's a very good question, because right now that's a matter of some legal dispute in the Ohio Supreme Court and also in U.S. District Court for Southern Ohio. The petitioners, a group called Ohioans Against Corporate Bailouts, has moved to put House Bill 6 on the statewide ballot in November 2020, which of course is a presidential election as well, so there'd be a very large turnout, potentially. Our Constitution since 1912 has given Ohioans the chance to put legislation on the ballot if they wish to vote it up or down. But several things have gotten complicated about putting House Bill 6 on the ballot, one of which is that the petitioners, called Ohioans Against Corporate Bailouts, were not able to collect as many signatures as they needed to collect to get the thing on the ballot in the first place. And furthermore, their effort was complicated by other people that were also collecting a different kind of petition of unknown origins and unknown specifications to kind of, I would argue, confuse the voters who were asked to sign these things.
So if we could talk about the petitioners a little bit then,
yes,
that you just mentioned. Pro-House Bill 6 petitioners then showed up, even if they didn't necessarily need to get signatures. Do you know if that's true?
Well, I think it's been documented that it happened, and their particular argumentation point, a debating point, which is fair enough, is the claim that because some Chinese entities are investing in natural gas plants in our state, that if voters rejected House Bill 6 at the polls, if it reaches the ballot, we would in effect be ushering in a foreign entity to control one of our key energy supplies. So I believe the petitions, I know they were delivered to some legislators at the State House. The petitions, in effect, asked the legislature to do something about making it illegal for foreign entities to have an interest in our power supplies in our state. It's fair to say that many people who were approached probably were confused about what they were signing either way, because you had two rival petitions and maybe on the same street corner, the same part of campus, asking you to sign one or the other, and you might have thought I could only sign one, not both, which actually you could do if you wanted to sign both. And because of that, it's fair to say, I think, to assume anyway, that there was some voter confusion on what people were signing and when they were signing it and what they meant by signing it.
So Ben, the bill would add a tax on Ohioans through their utility bill to pay for this. About how much more would people be paying?
Well, so Sudis actually says that Ohioans shouldn't see their bill go up because of the way the legislation was negotiated. As he said, the bill was signed into law by Governor DeWine, but has been controversial since the beginning, so it will be interesting to see what voters decide. And as Sudis mentioned in the interview, House Bill 6 attracted many petitioners from both sides of the issue. Ohioans Against Corporate Bailout, a group fighting the bill, enlisted petitioners around the state in an attempt to get 265,000 signatures to oppose the bill and put an opposing referendum on the November 2020 ballot. The pro-House Bill 6 group, however, reacted to these petitioners with some of their own counter-petitioners, despite needing 0 signatures to pass the bill. Lane Hefflinger, an Ohio University student, witnessed these petitioners firsthand. He says they were relentless here in Athens.
I've signed it probably 3 times just to get them to stop asking me. I walked past them and they have stopped me a couple times. So it's not, I wouldn't really say it's aggressive. It's just very annoying, honestly.
The Ohioans Against Corporate Bailout group didn't get enough signatures in time to put the referendum on the ballot in 2020.
Their appeal for more time to gather signatures was rejected by a district court, but they can still take the matter to the Ohio Supreme Court. And coming up next, our reporters break down all of the other initiatives that will be on the ballot in Athens County.
Plus, Nelsonville voters will decide on a cannabis ordinance. This special election edition of Newswatch will be right back.
We've talked about all of the candidates in Athens and one state issue that voters will see when they go to the polls tomorrow so far. But there are also several Athens County ballot initiatives that voters will have to decide on. Joining me now is new political reporter Zach Zimmerman to break down all of these other issues. Thanks for being here, Zach.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. So let's get right into it. Most of these initiatives will provide funding for various organizations in Athens. So can you start talking a little bit about Issue 16?
Issue 16 is about funding for the Athens County Public Library. If this is approved, there will be about a 10-cent tax increase and an additional 2 cents for every $100 of property value. This money would be used to covering operating expenses for the libraries.
Okay, and so if Issue 17 is passed, it'll provide funding for childcare in Athens County. What exactly does that mean?
Child care means anything that is child support services, such as Athens County Children's Service. This issue is just looking to renew the existing levy that has been in place for almost 20 years now. Issue 18 is another renewal levy. This initiative would keep in place a 3-cent tax on every $100 of property value to treat tuberculosis patients in the county. This is important because right now, Ohio doesn't provide any state funding to help those who have TB. Moving on to another renewal, Issue 19 would provide funding for emergency medical services in Athens County. Athens County Chief of Emergency Medical Services, Rick Caleb, says the money is important to the department's operation. He says that the dollars have been used for medical equipment, new ambulances, and employee salaries in the past.
Thank you so much for being here, Zach.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Of course.
Now, moving outside of the city of Athens, voters across the region will cast their ballots and decide on a variety of issues, funding, and city races. Newswatch reporter Allie Eldridge joins me in studio now. Allie, from other parts of Athens County like Nelsonville to Meigs and Hocking counties, what can voters expect?
Well, there are several local races for city council and school board, as well as some proposed levies. To start, there are several candidates running for Nelsonville City Council, so voters will have a lot of names to choose from there. 4 candidates are running for 2 open at-large seats with an unexpired term, and another 5 candidates have been campaigning for the other 3 at-large seats. In Gloucester, there are 3 candidates for mayor. Thomas Hooper, Samantha Sikorsky, and Nathan Simons will all be on the ballot. There are also several races for local school boards. There are the 5 candidates and 2 open seats for the Alexander School Board. Federal Hocking Board of Education has 2 seats up for grabs with 4 candidates running. Logan Hocking School District Board of Education also has 2 open seats.
Okay, so that was a quick look at some of the other candidates we didn't talk about in the show already, Allie, but there are also some important levies and ordinances on the ballots.
Yes, one is a proposed ordinance for the city of Nelsonville. Similar to a measure that was passed in Athens last year, voters will decide whether to adopt the Nelsonville Cannabis Ordinance. According to ballot language, it would lower the penalty for misdemeanor marijuana offenses to the lowest penalty allowed by the state. Also in Nelsonville, there will be a renewal levy on the ballot. The money would be used for construction and repair of streets, roads, and bridges. The Village of Gloucester will also have a proposed tax renewal levy to maintain their police department. And voters in the Village of Albany will vote on a replacement levy for the purpose of, quote, police protection.
Okay, so let's move to Meigs County now. There are several new tax levies on the ballot. What would that money go towards?
The first one would go towards funding operating expenses of the 911 system. Another one would go towards, quote, the operation of a free public museum of art, science, or history. And finally, a third new levy would benefit the Humane Society. According to ballot language, the money would be used to expand the Canine Center to include cats.
And in Hocking County, voters will see some levies that will benefit the school systems.
That's right. There will be an income tax renewal which would give money to the Logan Elm Local School District, Pickaway, and Hocking counties. Voters would pay about just 1% of their income.
Thank you, Allie. That was a lot of information all at once, but don't worry, you can go to woub.org for more about all of those races. Plus, follow us on social media tomorrow as the results roll in. We will be covering the races live on Facebook, and we'll be posting on our Instagram and Twitter throughout the night. More than 40,000 people are registered to vote in Athens County. Hear why casting your ballot even when there isn't a presidential election is important. That's after the break.
I grew up in the South Bronx in the 1970s, during the time of the fires. Landlords were burning our buildings for profit, and they didn't have to rebuild our homes. 250,000 people displaced, residents and grassroots organizations had no other choice but to fight back. These were our homes. This was our neighborhood. We weren't gonna take it lying down.
Decade of Fire.
What's up? My name is Joseph Hennessy. I am the host of the 21st season of Gridiron Glory. We are super excited to be back on the air. Make sure to tune in every Friday night at 11:30 p.m. on WUB PBS, and make sure to keep up with all of our social media on Facebook, Twitter, and on Snapchat. Now, just a couple of these teams. Did Jackson come out of the FAC? Is River Valley the dark horse? Who knows? Make sure to keep watching. And remember, there's nothing better than Friday nights and Gridiron Glory.
The more data, the better the AI works. In the age of AI, where data is the new oil, China is the new Saudi Arabia.
There will be a Chinese tech sector, and there will be an American tech sector.
Machines are automating some of our skills.
When I increase productivity through automation, jobs go away.
It has pervaded so many elements of everyday life. How do we make it transparent and accountable?
I was very scared about him having to deploy.
This is the side of war you haven't seen.
Hey, Daddy's got to go.
The courageous story of military families.
I love you so much.
I love you.
Back home, while time stands still.
A documentary by military spouse Elena Miliaresis.
There are over 40,000 registered voters in Athens County, according to the Board of Elections. That's about 60% of the county's population.
In Ohio, early voting means you cast an absentee ballot that gets counted on election night. Athens County Board of Elections Director Debbie Quivy says that there's a lot of different issues on the ballot in Athens and the local area.
And tomorrow on the ballot, Nelsonville has a city council race. Athens has a lot of different races, and this is local, and that means that you have townships, you have school board, so there's a lot for the community locally to vote on.
Tomorrow for the election, voting hours will be from 7:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m.
To check if you're registered, find out where your polling location is, or check the status of your absentee ballot, you can visit the Athens Board of Election website. And now let's head back over to Blake Hardesty for a final look at weather.
Well, overnight tonight, it's going to get pretty chilly out there. 40 degrees is going to be our overnight lows out there tonight. And with the breeze out there, it's going to knock our wind chills down into the 30s for most of the evening. We do have some rain showers moving in overnight tonight and into tomorrow. 53 degrees for the high temperature tomorrow. It's going to be rainy for most of the day, but by the time we get to the evening time, those showers and clouds are going to start breaking up, and we'll have west winds of 5 to 10 miles per hour. As we go through the rest of the week, Wednesday we'll have sunshine returning 56 degrees, but on Thursday is what everyone's going to be talking about. We have the first chance of seeing our first snow of the season, but we'll be keeping an eye on that as we go through the next couple of days. Still a few days away. Sunny on Friday and Saturday with more snow possible on Sunday and Monday.
And that does it for our special edition of Newswatch this evening. Thanks for watching. I'm Ben Schwartz.
And I'm Anna Azalian. We'll continue election coverage for the next couple of weeks on Newswatch.
What's up? My name is Joseph Hennessy. I am the host of the 21st season of Gridiron Glory. Make sure to tune in every Friday night on WUB at 11:30 p.m. and make sure to keep up with all of our social media. Remember, there's nothing better than Friday nights and Gridiron Glory.